1980s was Japan's golden future. Everyone was wealthy, everyone was happy, and the economy, it was booming. This was the way of life for the foreseeable future, until it wasn't. The 90s was supposed to carry on this trend, but instead the economic bubble burst, sending the nation to a dark age. It became what's known today as Japan's lost decade. Lifetime employment, gone. Stable futures, gone. The promise that hard work guaranteed success, gone. This was the new reality Japan was facing, and it was the same reality that one creator lived through. Hideaki Anno, known for his infamous 1995 anime Neon Genesis Evangelion, experienced this firsthand. In fact, you could even say Evangelion itself is a representation of that era. It became a voice for a mental health crisis that ensued, the defining message of Japan's lost generation. To understand what I actually mean, let's rewind a bit. After the bubble burst, Japan became unrecognizable from the decade before. It entered an employment ice age. The traditional path for getting a good job and working till you retire was no longer possible. Young people became freeers, bouncing between part-time jobs with no security and no future. Others withdrew completely. They became what is known today as hikikomori, youth who shut themselves in their rooms for years. They were unable to face a society that had no place for them. It was a vibe of total stagnation. This is the world that gave birth to Neon Genesis Evangelion and its creator, Hideaki Anno. Today, Anno is seen as one of Japan's most prolific creators, but back then, he was a broken man. He spent 4 years in total psychological collapse. He later described himself as a broken man who could do nothing for 4 years, a man who ran away who simply wasn't dead, but something changed within him. He found an ounce of strength in this period to create Evangelion in 1995, and he poured everything in it. As he stated, I tried to include everything of myself into Neon Genesis Evangelion. It is a production where my only thought was to burn my feelings into film. Anno wasn't just making a show about giant robots, he was making a show about how it felt to be young, broken, and abandoned by the world. Every moment of Evangelion feels like a reflection of his own personal trauma. Shinji Ikari is the main character. On the surface, he's a generic mecha protagonist. 14 years old, summoned by his distant father to pilot a biomachine to save humanity from monsters called angels. But Shinji isn't a hero, he's a scared, helpless child. He's quite literally a clinical portrayal of depression and learned helplessness. He doesn't want to pilot the Ava, yet he feels helpless to do anything else. He's terrified, he freezes in battle, he runs away. He hates himself constantly. He only pilots the Ava because he's desperate for any crumble of approval from his father who abandoned him. His phrase throughout the series is, "I mustn't run away." He repeats it so much it becomes second nature, but he can never truly follow his own words, because he lacks the belief that he even holds any value. This isn't just character writing, this is Anno portraying exactly what he experienced. The paralysis of depression, and a desperate need for validation. Shinji isn't the only damaged soul in the series, in fact every character is broken in their own way. Rei Ayanami is dissociation made manifest. He has no emotions and has no sense of self. She follows orders without question because she only views herself as replaceable. She is exactly what happens when the system treats you as disposable. And then you have my personal favourite character, Asuka Langley. She's a huge narcissist. She's loud and acts perfect because she's terrified of being alone. Her need to be the best isn't ambition, it's psychological terror. Her biggest fear is abandonment. The collapse at the end of the series is an inevitable result of her building her identity on external achievements. In a world where achievements don't guarantee you success anymore, together they represent the survival strategies of the lost generation: dissociation, performance, and paralysis. Even the adults in the series are no better. Gendo Ikari, Shinji's father, is called a manipulative. He uses his own son as a tool for his own personal gain. This is exactly how many youth felt about their employers or even their own families. Then you have Misato Kasuragi. She's a competent, strong woman on the surface, but deep down, she's as broken as the rest of them. She uses alcohol and sex to cope with childhood trauma. There isn't a single functional authority figure in this show, no one to provide guidance or stability, just an older generation exploiting a new one. This is the intergenerational betrayal the lost generation felt in real life. The parents who enjoyed Japan's economical miracle were unable or unwilling to help their children navigate its collapse. The show's mythology operates on multiple levels. The second impact, the event that killed half of humanity, is basically the bubble burst. The cast is trying to survive the ruins of a promised future that never materialized. And then there's the Human Instrumentality Project, the series' ultimate question. It proposes dissolving all human consciousness into one singular being. No more loneliness, no more pain, no more individual existence. This was the choice the lost generation faced: withdraw completely into isolation where you can't be hurt, or remain an individual, vulnerable to pain and rejection. Shinji's final choice reflects the choice to be an individual, to accept pain at the price of real connection. This is Anno's answer, not to run away, but to choose to exist. Evangelion was eventually reimagined with 4 rebuild movies, and the soundtrack was done by the legendary Hikaru Utada. She became the voice of Evangelion's rebirth. Tracks like Beautiful World, Sakura Nagashi, and One Last Kiss show why she was perfect for this. Just like Anno, Utada understands what it feels to be an outsider. Her lyrics often deal with those same feelings of loneliness and finding your place in a world that feels alien. And that's why when her vocals hit in the final moments of 3.0 plus 1.0, it feels magical. It isn't just a song, it's a bridge between the 90s trauma and the modern road to healing that Anno and many others found. But don't just take my word for it, here's Anno himself.
ものって外に出ようとする力があるんですよ。僕はその意識でやってましたから、とにかく今のところから外に出たいと。でもあれも結果としては外に出ようとしてどんどん内にこもってしまった結果ですからね。まあなんかアニメだけに限らず今の日本全体がそうなってると僕は思いますけど、ものすごくなんかこう強い閉塞感にどんどん包まれていくんじゃないかと思いますよ、これから日本は。その時に外に出ようとする力がどこまで出るかですよ。
Neon Genesis Evangelion isn't just about giant robots, it's about the cost to exist when existence becomes unbearable. It's about a generation that lost their future and had to learn how to build it on their own. Hideaki Anno burned his own depression into film. In doing so, he gave the lost generation recognition that their pain was real, and that even in the ruins of a broken world, the choice to keep living is its own type of victory. If you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing. I'm trying to hit 1,000 subscribers before June. Also check out my previous video. I'll see you guys all in the next one. Stay tuned.